And welcome back to the LA Sports Report. And here to talk about this weekend's big matchup, Michigan, USC from McCallie. We got Connor Morissette from 24/7 Sports. And first of all, I worked for 24/7 Sports covering UCLA back in the day. I am a Bruin, but honestly, a lot of my best friends are Trojans. I have a lot of Trojan family members. We talk a lot of USC football on this show. Connor, how do you gauge the excitement heading into this game?
Yeah, the excitement it's palpable. Both teams come in with one loss, so we're going to see who will still be in that college football playoff discussion and who will exit for at least a few weeks until they could get back on track potentially. But having two losses this early in the year is almost a certain death knell to getting into the college football playoffs. So there's excitement in that regard. And then it's the two storied programs of USC and Michigan. So anytime that these two teams get together, in the past, it's usually been for a Rose Bowl. Now it's a regular season game. So the pageantry of that sticks out as well.
And for a USC team coming off a loss against Illinois, you saw some of the defensive struggles. Ramsey out of the game. You lose some key offensive linemen. How does the health look like for this USC team heading into this matchup?
So the big question is at left tackle when you ask the health question for USC. Elijah Page didn't play against Illinois, and USC's offensive line overall did a good enough job to still stay in that game. So even if Page isn't able to play, there's still a lot of confidence in Justin Tawanu'u, who would move over from right tackle and go to left tackle. But Page, he's going to be a game time decision. It sounds like I heard on Tuesday that he practiced and looked good. But then on Wednesday, we saw him leaving practice, kind of shaking his head, walking a little slow. He's dealing with a knee injury. So I don't know if he re-aggravated it Wednesday. They keep everything very close to the vest. So we'll have to see with him. Jacoby Lane, USC's really good receiver. He played very limited action against Illinois when USC was down. And he, I think, is going to be back closer to 100%, not quite there yet, but he's trending in the right direction. There's a true freshman defensive back, Alex Graham, who, if he's healthy, he could maybe factor in, but he's another guy who's a game time decision. So it seems like things are trending in the right direction for most of these guys. Lane, I think, is a lock to play. The other two we'll have to see.
And we are joined by Connor Morissette. You can find his work over at uscfootball.com, the senior staff writer over there. One of the great USC Trojan ball knowers in the game. Now, Connor, we look at this offense. You got Jada Maiava. You've got some of the best receivers in the sport with Lemon. And, I mean, you look at what this team is able to do offensively. What takes them to the next level, though? Is this a team where, okay, it's a Lincoln Riley offense, highly potent? Is there something that you're looking for that can take this offense to the next level?
They've been way better than I expected. So to me, they're already playing at that next level. So I would just look for everything to be a little bit more crisp. Against Illinois, Jade Maiava threw his first interception. Against Illinois, Wayman Jordan had another costly fumble that he lost, USC's running back. So the bye week for USC, they really focused on getting back to the fundamentals and just looking at what they're not doing quite well and improving there. But offensively, they've been doing a lot really well. So the next level, I think, would probably be Jacoby Lane establishing himself as that clear number two alongside Mekhi Lemon. The big weakness for them is they don't really have a third receiver, but that hasn't been that big of a problem so far when Mekhi Lemon's as good as he's been and Jaden Maiava's not making mistakes. USC's tight ends have taken a big step forward. The running game has been solid. So I think for them that when you ask that question, the challenge is just, can you be more crisp? Can you eliminate the mistakes that we saw against Illinois? But overall, the offense has been really good and much better than I anticipated, which is funny to say when Lincoln Riley's the coach. But after last season, it was kind of like, how good is this offense going to be? They've been great, so they just got to clean a few things up. And I think they're playing pretty close to that next level that you asked about.
Yeah, we've just seen just a opponent offense. That's what we expect. I mean, USC, growing up, it's always 5 stars. It's talent everywhere. It's the same story with these guys on the current roster, the Mekhi Lemons, Jacoby Lanes, the Wayman Jordans. But if you're Michigan, you got Derek Moore, you got a defensive line, a team that's really going to do everything they can to try to neutralize this offense. What would be the biggest key from Michigan to try to slowing down this offense for USC? And if you're USC, kind of what are you looking for to make sure that this offense is scoring a ton of points on Saturday in the Coliseum?
It's going to come down to the trench play. If Jaden Maiava doesn't have a lot of time, then USC might be in trouble. The offensive line has been good so far this year for USC, but they haven't played a defensive front like Michigan. Jashawn Barham is a really good defensive end for Michigan. He was a linebacker. He moved over to defensive end. USC has not played a pass rusher, like him so far this year. Gabe Yakis at Illinois is a really good player in his own right, more of that traditional defensive end. But you look at Barham, I don't want to make the Abdul Carter comparison, but that's another guy who switched from linebacker to edge rusher and really made a huge leap. Barham is in a similar mold. So that's where I see a key matchup for Michigan. Can he take advantage of USC's tackles, especially if Elijah Page can't play? So Illinois, they said, hey, we're going to punch USC in the mouth with our offensive line. And Michigan, they saw that tape. They're going to try to do the same thing. This whole pre-game lead up for USC, it's been all about how tough are you? Can you win at the line of scrimmage? Everyone nationally thinks you can't after what happened a couple weeks ago. So for on both sides, it's going to be about who wins at the line of scrimmage. And I think USC's sick of hearing people say they're not going to be able to come out on top. I expect a response. How big of a response we'll have to see Saturday.
Yeah, and a lot of the criticism came with the defense. And Lynn coming in there, trying to be an upgrade to Grinch and just find a way to match what USC is able to do on offense. You saw key people out. I mean, Ramsey didn't play. Kamari Ramsey was out in week 5. He also had 10 penalties. I think it was pretty encouraging to see guys step up into those spots. Kevin Longstreet coming into that role. But what are you expecting to see from USC's defense, and what do you think is the biggest key to stopping Michigan's offense?
They got pushed around on the defensive line, so I expect a response there. I don't know if USC has the talent good enough to take over the game with its defensive line, but I do think the defensive line is better than it showed against Illinois. So I'm expecting more pressure, more tackles for loss. They didn't have a sack or a tackle for loss from the defensive front against Illinois. I imagine that will change. Those guys have been really challenged this week. But the biggest weak point for USC so far this year has been in the secondary, and that's another wild card where the cornerbacks have not been good. Kamari Ramsey being out 2 weeks ago did not help. Him coming back will be huge. He wears the green dot for USC, so just so much with him aligning the players and just his knowledge is going to be huge. But they don't really have any more answers at corner. They kind of have what they have. So teams have been able to throw on USC, and now you bring in a Bryce Underwood as a true freshman quarterback. He's sort of been up and down with their passing game so far. That's the key matchup for me. How well does Underwood pass the ball? Because if he has his coming out party as a passer against USC with all eyes watching this game nationally, that's a big problem. This team, Michigan, they're not set up to really hit the weaknesses that USC has on defense, in my opinion. But hey, if I'm wrong on that and Underwood has this huge game throwing the ball and USC doesn't make the adjustments they need to slow down the run against a really good rushing attack, they could be in for a long day. I expect a response, though, as I keep saying, because if they don't get one, then sound the alarm. It's going to be a problem. The team, Michigan, how they're set up, it shouldn't lend itself to beating a USC at home inside the Coliseum with all the guys that USC has and how they play.
Yeah, Justice Haynes, another guy that he's had a pretty strong year so far too, 654 yards on 85 carries. But if you are this USC team, and you mentioned kind of the lack of just talent in the secondary, is it talent? Is it scheme? Is it a combination of both? And is this something that you expect to change with USC always being one of the great teams that have been able to recruit high-level talent? I mean, what do you make of, did they drop the ball in the offseason? I mean, what do you just kind of make of just the lack of talent, as you mentioned, on that side of football?
I think first and foremost, it's inexperience, especially at the cornerback spot. USC had other guys who could have helped who got hurt, so they're down a few spots on the depth chart. The guys who they have were pretty highly ranked recruits. Marcellus Williams comes to mind as a highly ranked recruit who's going to be in there a lot. D'Anton Lynn, the one thing with him that he's kind of struggled with this year, in his past 2 seasons, he's had really older, experienced secondaries, and now with some younger guys playing more, I think understanding the defense and knowing where they need to be, guys are kind of thinking too much at the corner spot, so that's been a problem. And I do think it can get better. I don't think they're going to turn into an elite secondary in the blink of an eye, but I think they can be better than they've shown. And this bye week was huge because that was the group on the team that had the biggest question marks. And so if they could go back to film and just go back to basics, I do expect a response. And they got a nice Michigan team that has some good receivers coming in, but their passing game is still a work in progress. It's a good spot for this cornerback group to show, hey, we've made some improvements. It's not going to be perfect, but I do expect a response from them too.
And one thing I love that you pointed out too is, I mean, this is a classic matchup. You expect to see these guys in Rose Bowls to the best uniforms. You got the winged helmets. You got the Cardinal and gold of the Trojans. I thought it was pretty interesting to hear Sharon Moore kind of have that little jab after it was announced that the game was sold out. Moore says, "Oh, it's sold out because of Michigan." And I think I heard Lincoln Riley saying something like, "Hey, I don't care what he says," and things like that. What do you make of kind of the tension in this game? Because, yeah, if I'm I think that's a little bit of a bulletin board material for USC to kind of feel them a little bit.
Certainly. The thing with Moore's comments, I think USC fans, even the biggest fans, are like, hopefully there aren't too many Michigan fans in there. Michigan, they have the big LA presence, obviously a massive following, the national title winners a couple of years ago. So there will be a good amount of Michigan fans in there. But Sherrone Moore definitely poked the bear a little bit with those comments. And then Riley, I don't want to say he took the high road. He was a little snippety. We don't really hear him be snippety like that. So I think he heard that, and he's a little bit frustrated potentially that Michigan might have some fans in there. That's how I took those comments. But yeah, I don't think these coaches have the strongest relationship. Like before USC Illinois, we saw Riley and Brett Bielema talk for about 10 to 15 minutes into the 50-yard line. I don't anticipate Riley and Sharon Moore having a conversation before this, but I like stuff like this. I like when a coach isn't afraid to go out and say something and then the other coach responds. It's good for the buildup of the game. And yeah, I do think USC will use that as bulletin board material. Not that they need anymore after that Illinois loss, but I do think that can be a motivational tactic for them. And I think Lincoln Riley knows this week this is a must win for him. So I do think they'll pull out all the stops, and I keep going back to this. I expect a response.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think this will turn to the next Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, "Hey, what's your deal?" type of thing after the game. But it is nice to see that tension. It's good for the sport. But kind of big picture, Connor, Lincoln Riley, when USC brought him in as their head coach, it was one of the biggest surprises. It was a major coup, signed him to a massive contract. And we know USC fans' expectations. We are a top 5 all-time program, one of the blue bloods, one of the great programs in the history of the sport. He's yet to get them to the CFP. He won Caleb the Heisman, helped out with that. Was a pretty magical season for USC. But where do you just think that Lincoln Riley is right now with the program, and just how big of a win do you think this would be for him just to kind of get things right for the Trojans?
This would be a win that I don't want to say buys him more time, because if they do lose, who's to say exactly what would happen? But it certainly buys them some more goodwill with the fans. Going into the season, everyone thought USC would start 4-0. They did. And then it was like, okay, Illinois on the road will be tough. Of course, they got boat raced by Indiana the week before. So then all of a sudden that game looked a little bit easier, but USC goes and loses that game. You had to go 1-1 on the road at Illinois now against Michigan. You go 1-1, it's kind of, okay, this is what we expected. If they lose it, then you start to ask some uncomfortable questions. If this season totally falls apart, then I rule out nothing with how the USC brass would act with Riley. This is year 4. The resources that they've poured into the program are really, really good, and they've done a really good job of just trying to put him in a position to succeed this year and moving forward. They do have the number 1 class in 2026, so maybe that potentially could help him if they do have a bad year. But it's a big game. You lose this game, the questions, the whispers, is he the guy, all that, it gets louder and louder. So I do think it's a big game. You got to start winning some of these games. I think they're 0-4 in their last 4 games against ranked opponents in the regular season. This is a game you got to quiet some people, the doubters, everyone who says, "Oh, he's overpaid." Like, this is a game you just got to go out and get the job done.
So you're saying that, hey, no matter how big of a name he is and how much money the buyout could be and how much they paid to get him, that, hey, depending on how this season plays out, anything could be on the table just because it's USC and you got to produce.
Absolutely. And that's sourced information too. That's not me speculating. If they go 7-5 again, I think it's more likely than not that he's no longer the coach a year from now, but we'll have to see what happens.
How do you think he's handling the pressure of being the head football coach at USC? Because, you know, Oklahoma's a big job too, but we know how USC fans are. We know what this city's about. If you're not delivering the goods from at least you're competing for titles, winning titles, those whispers are going to turn into roars and you're going to start getting called into question. But how do you think he's handling this pressure being the USC head coach and just what has transpired so far?
I actually think he's handling it better this year. They hired a general manager in Chad Bowden from Notre Dame who's taken a lot off of Riley's plate. Now the coaching staff doesn't have to recruit as hard as they did in the past, and they're still recruiting in a high level. I make no mistake. It's not like they're totally ignoring that facet of it. But Riley now, with all the support that he has, a new strength coach, like the way things are set up for him is just, hey, focus on the X's and O's, focus on the game plan week in and week out. There are other people here in this program who can take things off your plate. I think last year we saw the effects of him not having a strong general manager and just really feeling the pressure, not feeling like he had a team that could compete at the highest level a year ago. And now I think the administration at USC and Riley, to a point, feels like this team is capable of more. So if they lose this week, I think the pressure ratchets way up, and then we could have a conversation about how he's handling it. But so far, I think he's handling it well this season.
And you've got Michigan, you've got Notre Dame, you got Oregon still on your schedule. Does this feel like a team in your mind from a talent standpoint? I mean, Jay Mayava, you're talking about a Heisman favorite, right? First couple of weeks. The talent, the receivers. I mean, does it feel like to you that this team still has CFP level ceiling?
Well, I didn't think so before the year started. And then the season started and they were lights out on offense. And to me, that changed the equation and made me think, okay, if they get some good luck here or there, obviously you got to win, but the floor was raised to me. And maybe with some lucky bounces or just some stuff goes your way, you get to 10-2 and you go in. That Illinois game, though, the way they played defensively, yes, they didn't have Ramsey, but that kind of made me go the other way because we all thought the defense would be better and the offense would take some time to get up to speed. It's been the exact opposite. So when they start 4-0 and they have some defensive miscues, fine. I just thought they'd be able to outscore everyone after what I saw the first 4 weeks. So before the season, I didn't think they had that ceiling. After the first 4 games, I did. Now they're playing better teams, though, so maybe I was premature in that calculation. But when the offense is as good as the offense is, they're going to be in every single game. So I do think they still have that ceiling, but the schedule is really tough now, and I would still bet against them making the CFP.
Hey, the opportunity's there, the talent's certainly there, the USC magic, I mean, we'll see if they can capture it. Okay, last question here, Connor. So it's Saturday at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I tell you that USC beat Michigan. What things do you think transpired in the game? What do you think went USC's way to be able to get that win?
I think Jade Mayava has a big game. Makai Lemon has a big game, like they've done all year pretty much. Jacoby Lane is a factor. The tight ends are a factor. Wayman Jordan holds on to the ball, has a nice game running the ball. I just think the recipe for USC is to get to 28, 30, 31 points and outscore Michigan. So I think we'll be talking about USC's offense in that way. And then defensively, USC will make some mistakes. Michigan will score some points. But I think we'll be talking about, against Illinois, we saw a 64-yard screen pass go for a touchdown. We saw a wide open 29-yard go route that went for a touchdown. USC was more buttoned up, and they did enough to win this game on the defensive end. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't like a car accident, kind of like it was against Illinois. Those, I think, will be the talking points.
I love it. We appreciate the insight. By the way, I got USC's fight song over Hail to the Victors. I don't care that's unpopular opinion. I know that's iconic, but I mean, USC, they played the entire game. They don't stop with it. You hear it in your brain for the next week after you go to USC game. So all the pageantry will be on Saturday night. We appreciate you joining us here on the LA Sports Report. You can follow Connor Morissette at C_Morissette over on Twitter. Go read all of his work at USCfootball.com and enjoy the game. And I think it's going to be a good one in the Coliseum on Saturday, Connor.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
So find us over on YouTube. It's LA Sports Report. We're going live Monday through Friday and shows on the weekends. It's LA Sports 24/7, 365. You know I'm loyal to the soil, not just Dodgers, but Lakers, Rams, Chargers, USC, UCLA, Kings, Clippers. If they're talking about it in the world of LA sports, we'll be covering it at the LA Sports Report. You know I'm loyal to the soil. Join the LA Sports Report now.